intro on the side with you dancing, and then I realized that I'm dancing too during our intro.
Yeah, I really like the intro music.
I love the intro music that we picked. For this and for your show, Moment of Presence, it's just I'm always in the background, like grooving along. Like,
Hey everybody, it is Michelle Barone with Moksha Grace Coaching, and
I am Krista Barone with Wicked Wisdom Consulting, and today we are bringing you episode 2 of Shockingly Delightful, and we have got a fun, I'm copying you now, a fun topic today, which actually I think, it might even be a little bit controversial.
I know. And I think that, we'll say that our opinions are our own, and please take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Like, that's it. This isn't a debate. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just different views and different perspectives.
Right.
And that's the place that we're coming from. So let's just put that out there because, hate mail is not what the world needs more of. And, but
And
hey,
we're not going to read it or respond to it. So you're welcome to comment, though. We love to have you guys join the conversation and let us know your thoughts as well.
Yes.
And we should tell you really what today's topic is if you didn't read, the description. Is today we're talking about the whole men versus women dynamic that's going on right now. And this is a hot topic for me. It's something that I'm really passionate about and really grinds my gears.
Yes, it charges you up.
Yeah, because I am a big believer in that men and women are not equal, reasonably so, and for good reason. We each have different strengths, and that means that we are not equal, but that doesn't mean that one should be put above the other. It doesn't mean that one should be disrespected just because of whatever. Like, we'll go into all of that. But what is your initial comments on the topic?
Well, I mean, just on what you just said, I think that we stand on our own ground as a female and as a male based on what we bring to the world, to a situation. And so it's equal shouldn't even be part of the equation. Together, we can equalize, harmonize, but it takes both. Just like, that's why our bodies have a feminine and a masculine side. And that's why we're stronger and we manifest and we can do better, be better when our own internal masculine and feminine are in harmony, right? Yeah. They're in balance. They're working together. So if we take example from our own internal world, and let's face it, even the world, the planet, right? Nature is more, Mother Gaia. And I don't even know what the masculine of.
What is the sun?
Yeah, okay.
Maybe masculine?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm gonna have to look into that more, just so I can be very clear. But
what if the earth is masculine and Mother Nature is the feminine?
That's super interesting, and probably no, you don't want to mess with Mother Nature. It was an old commercial back in the day. And then
for what?
She put, I think it was for butter, and it was, you don't want to mess with Mother Nature, and she would put her staff down on, and then lightning and thunder would happen, and you don't want to mess with Mother Nature. And if any of you remember, please drop it in the comments. But so, and then what's interesting is that I was raised in the day where women's rights started with my mom's generation, right? And so the baby boomers and all of that. And so there was this rising of women should have equality, but it was a different kind of equality. It was, we should be able to open up a bank account on our own. We should be able to buy a house on our own. We should be able to vote. That's an important one.
The basics of being a living human being these days.
Right. And so, but somehow
Hmm.
it then went all the way
Yeah,
to the other
and
side.
that's where I have a big problem with the movement
And,
personally.
and I agree. And I agree
Yeah,
with you
because
because
it's getting. Yeah, go ahead.
no, we shouldn't be chastising men, and men shouldn't be chastising women.
Right.
We're in this together.
Right. Well, and not only that, but the feminist movement originally started so that women, it wasn't just about having rights to do things, but it was about having the right to choose what you want for you. And now we've gotten to a point where if a woman wants to be a stay-at-home mom, she's getting ripped to shreds by other women because, well, you should want to work and be a career woman. What, do you just want to sit home and have a man take care? Like, it's just, there's so much hostility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, if we look deeper into that, there's obviously fear there and potentially some jealousy.
Yes.
You know, they don't have those opportunities, so they're taking out the anger and aggression on their other feminine, ladies around them. But then also the way that women are talking about and describing men is very troubling to see. The concept of like, well, I don't even need a man to procreate anymore. Actually, you do.
Yeah,
You do, and that's not going to change. And in some ways, I think feminism has almost become the new age feminism. Let me be
right.
clear: the new age toxic feminism has become almost like a cop out for people because now they don't have to heal their traumas in dealing
Mm-hmm.
with men or women. They can just put a label on it of, well, I'm a feminist and I believe women should be equal. But do you really though?
Right. And there's something to be said about thinking that we don't need men. I mean, men, just again going back to the internal, our masculine is the part that is structured, that
Mm-hmm.
um, gets things done, that
Yeah.
follows the recipe, that can dig in with their hands and build and
Mm-hmm.
do. And so can a woman do that? Yes, absolutely. But because you're tapping into your masculine,
Yeah.
internal masculine side.
Right.
And
Right.
so we do need the masculine, just like, by the way, masculine needs the feminine side.
Correct.
And there is nothing wrong with a man cooking, doing dishes, cleaning,
Doing art.
choosing to stay home and be with the kids while the wife goes out and works because her career may be the one that brings in more money. Whatever they decide, but guess what? They are deciding.
Yeah.
And our it's not our journey. And who the hell do we think we are to judge what anyone chooses
Yeah.
for themselves?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think there's something, bringing up the divine masculine and feminine that we all have within us. These people online on both sides, both the men who criticize women so heavily and the women who criticize men so heavily, what is their divine masculine and feminine respectively, depending on their outlook? How is their divine masculine and feminine faring in their lives? Are they so upset with women, like men so upset with women because they're denying their feminine side that everybody has, because everyone has a different sort of balance and percentage with them in them? And are women who despise men, are they suppressing their inner masculine? Like,
I
what's
would
the
say
actual
yes.
thing going on?
Yeah,
Right.
I would say yes because we're reflections
Mm-hmm.
of each other, and what we're the most unhappy with about someone else is always what we're the most unhappy with within ourselves.
Yeah.
Even if we don't want to admit it, even if we don't see it yet, you can always look, and it doesn't have to be masculine and feminine, it can
Yeah.
be other women too. But what you see in someone else that drives you freaking crazy, there's something within you that is similar or
Or
or reflective.
or is the complete opposite and you are not like that at all and it creates friction.
That's true too. So
Mhm.
there's so much to be said for embracing
Mhm.
the relationship, well, the partnership, because that's really what we're
Right.
talking about today, is that we have to be in partnership
Mhm.
with the masculine, with the feminine, together
Yeah.
to create the whole.
Yeah. And this could really, listening to you say all that and thinking about it more, this could really become a very deep conversation because duality is present in everything that we see in our universe. And so for one side to deny the other is to deny nature. Because there is two sides to everything. There's a dark to the light, light to the dark.
Mhm.
There's growth or living, death, like life and death. Everything has duality. So this is so much of a deeper conversation than just men versus women. But that's just what we're focusing on today. But I think, for me, what originally made me think about this topic was I had seen a post on one of the social platforms, and it was a quote from a celebrity talking about how she was raised to hear about certain things that led her to believe that how she looked and acted was most important versus her brother, who was taught to strive to be certain things, which was more about being successful, being strong, those kind of
Mhm.
things. And yes, that's a very men versus women topic, but it also is very much a parenting topic
Yes.
because I didn't resonate with that at all. Because my parents, one of them being you, um, it was not like it's never been a drive for me to make sure that I'm super skinny and I'm dressed a certain way. Like that was not something that was even, I think it was mentioned in passing, I'm sure, in content, but I was also raised with such a strong inner world, inner beliefs that didn't even phase me when I heard it from society.
Yeah.
Those were not things that I even internalized, really. And I think that does play a big role in how we then live our lives and look at whoever we are versus the opposite sex.
Yeah. And we tend to parent
Hmm.
a bit of the opposite of how we were parented.
Yeah, because you
So,
had a very different experience.
right.
Hmm.
In my experience, it was you don't go anywhere until, you know, you're put together.
Right.
And that wasn't just my mom. Looking back and thinking about it, that was Yaya, that's grandmother for Greek. Uh that was Yaya. Neither one of them, oh my gosh, I can't imagine them ever going to church without being prepared. Like done up in their dresses with their matching shoes. Like, but that was, my grandmother was a seamstress. That's what she did. She was, fashionable. And then they grew up in, the 40s and the 50s where, yeah, that's what you did. And so I was raised that way.
Hmm.
And also then my mom would throw in, you can be whatever you want to be, and because that's your right, like we have rights.
Hmm.
And I remember she gave me this book that was free. Well, it was Free to Be You and Me, of course, that Marlo Thomas, that was a big one. But there was also another book that was You Can Be Anything You Want to Be.
Hmm.
And in this book, it showed women, hey, Beth, women that were pilots. And yes, I think the last page was like president of the United States. And they were, truck drivers, and the whole book. It was a golden book. I
Yeah.
remember because it was only so big. But I remember looking at this and going, "This is super cool, but I want to be a mom," and
Hmm.
that wasn't included in the book.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. And now that I think about it, it's kind of telling with
Hmm.
where we now have gone, and the pendulum has swung.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost, one might say, makes you wonder if there's an agenda connected to it, but we won't go into that today.
We
Um,
won't go into that today.
but
Um,
but I mean that's a really great point because you know there's a lot of conversation online about really giving moms the respect that they deserve for the work that they do. And it's interesting that taking care of a household is not considered work. And yet, when we have other people do it, it is considered work. But if we do it, it's not.
Oh,
And that, that's a very interesting concept, and that goes for both men and women.
right,
Um,
right.
but
I'm
yeah,
laughing because I remember presenting, because I was a stay-at-home mom for the first 14 years, 15 years of your life.
yeah,
And I remember at one point presenting to pops like a list. Like, okay, if you had to send your laundry out, this is what it would cost. And of
mhm,
course, I got it from like, Glamour magazine or something, because of course they put it out there, or
right,
Good Housekeeping, who knows?
right,
But it was like, and this is how much it would cost to have your house clean, and this is how much it would be to have a cook come in every night, and
mhm,
and it was like this long list,
yeah,
and I was like, this is how much I was worth.
mhm.
But you know what? He never said I wasn't.
I was just about to hit on that. Is look at the energy in
Yeah.
that story that you were bringing to it, and the resentment and anger that you were bringing towards it. You weren't coming at it from a let me show you so we can understand this together. It was, well, you need to understand what I'm
Right.
doing.
Right.
And
And
so,
it was never an issue. Like, it wasn't an
right.
issue, but because I read this article, it
Mhm.
got me charged and fired up. Like,
Yeah.
I should be upset about this.
Well, and here's a curveball for you. It was never an issue or a conversation with you and your husband, and yet you still felt insecure about it. Why? Because in your book,
Hmm.
motherhood was not
Right.
a worthwhile career,
Right.
because to society it's not a worthwhile career.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I remember another conversation of writing out my PTA volunteer hours that was like 15 pages long,
Oh,
and totaling up, tallying all of the hours and showing my husband, your father, and going, look at how many hours I have volunteered. And he's like, now multiply that by minimum wage. And I was like, oh, oh. And so he was showing me this value. I
mhm.
mean, I was volunteering. I knew the value. I wanted to be near you guys, and I wanted to make the school a better place. So there was this being in service part to that, and being an advocate, because I was, and that's an interesting thing too, because I remember
Mhm.
other room moms being upset. Oh, I can't believe that it's only us. Where are these other moms? They're working, and I was like, we should be grateful
Yeah,
that we are here. And I always went out of my way to not coddle, but be even more present with the kids whose parents couldn't be there, or whose single mom was out busting her butt, because I felt like that was my duty. If I
right,
got to be there, then
right,
I was lucky enough, and I was honored to have that privilege to be there. And I remember that, but I remember other moms like dissing the moms, and me going like, you don't know their circumstances, and why are you judging them?
right.
So yeah, this is a masculine feminine conversation, and maybe we should do a two-part series and do a
Maybe
feminine
we should do
against
a
feminine,
lot of part series.
because women can be really nasty to other women,
Yeah,
especially in
yeah. That's
corporate
that's a
and
whole other
careers.
topic
Yeah,
for
well, okay,
another day. Yeah,
table it,
yeah.
table it. We're not going to talk about that today.
But hearing you say that just about other moms, let me ask you this: how often was there a room dad?
There is at least one or two.
Okay,
Maybe
one or
maybe
two out
maybe
of one
one.
or two out of
Maybe
how
one.
many women? Out of how many women?
Oh, 50, 60. Yeah.
Exactly. So on the flip side of it,
Yeah.
we can also respectively give men the due credit on all of the emotional and
Mhm.
familial things that they miss out on, by providing for a family.
Right.
And they have never historically really gotten a choice
Right.
of whether they want to, do hard labor, which is, more common back in the day. Nowadays we're getting a lot more, office jobs and stuff like that. But men don't even have that choice.
Right.
Women have a little bit more of that choice. So I think, this all goes back to both sides have had
Bias and
what's the word I'm looking for?
stereotype or bias.
Bias, have had trauma, have had, hardships, and yet both sides have seemed to take that, and honestly these days it's seeming like women are doing a little bit more, where we're taking that and turning it into such a big chip of victimhood on the shoulder that it gets you out of a lot of things, because you can always go back to, well, women,
Right.
and it gets you out of a lot of things. But it's created so much resentment that then gets internalized. And how is that going to affect your relationship? How is that going to affect the way that you raise your children? If you have a daughter and a son, how is that affecting them? Because there's also, I don't know if they come up for you, but there's all sorts of talk online with, people talking about this big craze with boy moms. And some of them are taking it really far in a really weird way. And it makes me wonder, do they harbor so much resentment for men that they're now obsessively raising their sons
Hmm.
in a certain way to compensate for the inner trauma they have with the masculine?
I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, I'm a boy mom. I'm a
No, no,
girl.
no, no. A boy mom would be you only have boys.
Oh, okay. So I'm
You're just your mom.
I'm a mom. However, I will say that I did go out of my way to teach your brother how to do laundry,
Mm-hmm.
how to put the cap back on the toothpaste, uh, uh, picking up his dirty laundry. I was helping cook
Yeah,
because, and even helping take care of you because I
yeah,
wanted
him
to,
doing that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to raise a good husband for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And Kara, my daughter-in-law, if you're listening, you're welcome, because he does do his own laundry and he does cook, and I'm very proud of the
They
man
have a
and
very
husband.
balanced.
Yes.
They have an incredibly balanced household. It's incredible.
Yeah. But there's some moms that would be, and some cultures, because it's a cultural thing too. Oh, I
Yeah.
would never ask my son to do the laundry or clean the house. Oh my goodness. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's not a boy, that's not a man's job. And it's like, who said? Who
Mm-hmm.
said?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll tell you what, my husband cleans better than I do. And he let
That's
me know
bold
that.
to admit on the internet.
He let me know that very very well. He let me know that, and then that's kind of when I stepped back and went, okay, good, then maybe we should have a housekeeper because you don't like the way I clean. um but I've gotten better over the years. He helped me. He had to teach me how to cook. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to make rice. I would burn it.
Mm-hmm.
So your and the Italian meals, please, he had to teach me all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see the 50s, as far as, not because I was alive in the 50s, no, but I got to see my grandparents and how
Right.
their marriage was and how they embraced their roles
Right.
as the man of the house, the woman of the house, and how respectful they were of each other. That there was never any part of me that said, oh no, I want to be the woman, the queen of the house, and the man will be less that. Like that.
You
People,
never had it. You never had any resentment.
Right. People used to get
Never harbored a
mad.
victimhood about it.
Right. There would be people, friends and family that would get upset with me because I wasn't putting my foot down. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? Why? Why? I don't let him go play baseball. Go do what it
Yeah.
was like. Why?
You know, this makes me think of the there's been certain sales positions that we're both familiar with where it would always bug me a little bit, because one of the things that some teams do in their sales process is, when it gets to the payment part, if a woman is on the phone and says, "Oh, well, I really need to talk to my husband," there's some online businesses, people, coaches, entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
whoever they might be, um, who will basically say to the woman, like, "Oh, does your husband do everything?" Like, and make them feel bad
Right.
about the concept of, "Well, I want to talk to my spouse about this large investment." We're talking thousands of dollars of investment. Um, and I'll never forget the first time I heard them say that. I was so taken aback by that
Hmm.
concept of putting pressure on somebody because they have the respect enough for their partner to make mutual decisions of something that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I just remember that being such a wild, wild concept to me.
Well, and it really can go both ways. I mean, being in that, I've had sales roles, and there are times when that is a legitimate conversation that, listen, this is what we do. It's also a way for a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, because I've heard it both ways. The man says, "Now I got to talk this over with my wife." And I've heard some people like make fun, like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's an agreement, then it's an agreement. I'm not going to go, like, I would hope that my husband wouldn't go buy, a Harley or a boat without saying, "Hey, what do you think about adding this to our,
Right.
you know, toy collection?" Um, However, there are also reasons that people will use that as an
Mm.
excuse to
Yeah.
hide behind their fear.
Of course. Of course.
So there's
Absolutely.
that too, and so then you have to have, but the smart people, the smart person that you're talking to will then dive in a little bit deeper and say, okay, either how can I help you with that conversation? Let's get that person on the phone. What do they need to know? Or also have the conversation of, if you weren't married or if you weren't in a partnership, would this be beneficial for you?
Yeah.
Would you feel comfortable moving forward, and proposing it that way
Yeah.
so that you can see where they're at? Is it fear? Isn't it an excuse? Do they, you know? So, yeah, that's my thought on that.
No, and that makes total sense. I was more speaking to the making fun of the person for it,
Yeah.
and putting them down because of it.
Yes.
But yeah, it absolutely can also be just like a lot of things we talked about. Basically, it's a cop out of having to make a decision, do something, heal a trauma that you need to heal. Um, so yeah.
And a lot of times it goes back to feeling worthy, which then goes back
Right.
to being the feminine versus the masculine, because a guy most likely would not think twice. And it goes the same thing with careers. A man will apply to a job. What's they say it all the time. A man will apply to a job if he has like three of the requirements or four of the requirements. A woman feels like they have to have all 10 or they won't even try.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question
Yes.
with that perfect example.
Yes.
Some people may say, somehow that's the man's fault. That doesn't sound like the man's fault to me. That sounds like the man probably has stronger self worth, maybe a little inflated self worth.
Hmm.
But either way, that's that's a perfect example of where people will be like, well, see, it's unequal. Well, why don't we look at what we need to do? You are perfectly capable of looking at just 3 or 4 of those qualifications and going, I'm going to apply anyway.
Right.
So what is it, instead of looking at it as how can we take down, oh my gosh, this goes perfectly aligned too with like if you, let's say, have lost your job.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of seeing where can I cut out expenses, focus on where can I increase my income. It's
Right.
the same kind of concept here. Instead of looking at this whole thing as how can women cut down men to make it equal,
Mm-hmm.
why don't we look at how we can raise up women
Right.
to where both genders, sexes are at their absolute peak operating.
They're
But
genius zones.
right. Why has the conversation become how do we tear the other one down? That's the
Well,
question that I have.
for the same reason, and this is, another conversation, but for the same reason that people go, black versus white, or all the other different ways that people silo other cultures and colors of skin, and this one gets more, and we're all the same energy. We bleed the same blood. So if a man is a better chef, then he should get the job versus a woman, or a fireman. If the woman is better because she's been working out and she can get the guy to the top of the ladder, she shouldn't be hired just because she's a woman. She should still have to perform and be able to save the same life,
Right.
so that it's equal. It doesn't matter what genitals you have. It matters on how you can perform the job asked of you. I was trying to be really careful with that one.
If you had just stopped at certain points, it would have been very bad. How delicately said. but yes, and
Yeah.
how has filling quotas, no matter what they
Oh
are,
God.
how has that weakened our society? That's a whole other question and topic for a whole other day.
Yeah.
But and what's interesting too is all of these things started, most of them started with good intentions,
Yes.
and then
Kinda.
no, I mean it did. Even let's go back to where before women had rights. Even the man being the lead of the household, that you can if you look at it from a bird's eye view, you can see where that was intentionally, like the intention there was good, because
Right.
at that time men were more educated, they were physically stronger, and you had a nuclear family, which was, nuclear family means a man and a woman and your 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids, whatever it is.
Right.
The person who was leading, just like back when people, we were cavemen and women, the person in charge was the one who had the most experience, that was strongest, because he was going to protect. And I even instinctually just said he was going to protect
Right.
the family. Not to say a woman can't do it, but we can see where that started with really good intention.
Yes. Well, and it's playing to the genius zone
Right.
of the physicality
Mhm.
of a human being,
Mhm.
regardless of man or woman.
Mhm.
And there's mixed marriages and what have
Absolutely.
you. That's fine, but the stronger person is going to be the
Right.
protector,
Right.
physically,
Right.
right? And then the nurturer is going to be the one that's a more feminine.
Right.
And
And
it
this
all
is where divine masculine and feminine come into play. What is your balance?
right.
Everyone has a different balance.
Mhm.
And you can still be a woman and be a little bit more tilted towards the masculine side. You probably work in either a laborious job, or something like maybe an accountant, or some type of technical role, something like
Mhm.
that, versus maybe your husband partner is more of the chef, the artist, the musician.
Mm-hmm.
So even a woman can be more dominantly, divinely masculine,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still a woman. That your physical body is completely separate in a way
Mm-hmm.
from the divine feminine and masculine in that dynamic.
And I wonder if that's what has, through the generations,
Mm-hmm.
what has tripped people up.
Yeah.
Because men were then speaking out saying, well, wait a minute, I don't want to go work, down building
Coal mines.
cars, or I was going to say the coal mines, or, in the hard labor job. Wait a minute. I want to be an executive
Mm-hmm.
or an assistant, a secretary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I remember like that was like unheard of. Like a man as a secretary.
Well, think of even the movie
Proposal.
Meet the Parents.
Oh, right.
They make fun of him for being a male nurse. What?
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with any of it. We
Mm-hmm.
get to choose what makes us happy.
Right.
That's it. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to perform to the society norms, because guess what? Who wants to be freaking normal based on what society says?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's just scary.
That's really interesting too, because, and this goes back to looking at what can we do better for ourselves versus tearing down the others. Let's say society stays the same. There is zero saying that you have to listen to society. But you have to have the confidence and self-worth to be able to stand against societies in the sense of who you choose that you want to be and how you want to live your life.
Yes.
That's a choice that you get to make for yourself. And
Yeah.
you are perfectly capable of doing that. But you do have to have the strength to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I'm going to tweak one of the words, because it's not always just about standing against society. It's about allowing society to society and not get pulled into it and wrapped into what everyone else is doing.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
Don't be part of the sheep herd. Be yourself. And that's all you have to worry about is just doing what's best for you. Yeah. What do you enjoy doing more?
Yeah.
And for those of you who aren't sure whether you're more masculine internally or more feminine, would you prefer baking or cooking? Because they're very different.
And they are not what you think they are. Like I just defaulted to thinking of baking,
right,
as a more feminine one.
And it isn't.
Right. The conversations we've had is actually not.
It isn't.
And go ahead, ask me why.
Well, I mean, I know why, but I'll ask you why so you can tell everyone else.
I know, I'm saying prompt me to give you the answer.
Krista, why is that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. So the reason why is in cooking, yes, you have recipes, but you have a lot of wiggle room. You can go with intuition. You know what? I'm going to add a little rosemary into this. I'm going to add some extra salt because I like, I'm going to add in whatever it is. With baking, you have to be precise, or else you're going to have a flat cake, a runny cake, a gross droopy cake. You have to be exact. With cooking, you have that flexibility to tune into your intuition. What do I want to add in? I want to add in, you know what? A clove of garlic. Who wrote this recipe? I'm adding in 6. That kind of thing. That is the feminine. That's the flow. That's your intuition.
Okay, wait, let's have some fun. So everyone watching, put in the comments who you think is the more masculine, internal masculine personality here, and who's the more feminine.
You mean between the two of us? Between the two of us.
Yeah, let's have some fun. Just put it in the comments. You can put MM, masculine, however you want to do it. I don't care. But
I feel like it's not hard to tell, but I would be very interested to see. And anyone who's watching after the fact, feel free to join in on the fun. We'll talk about something else real quick while You
And
guys comment.
it could be as easy as who's the baker and who's the cook.
It's not that easy because I do both.
Well, I do too. You're giving away the answer.
I didn't give away the answer either. I didn't say which one you are and which one you aren't.
Uh,
Also,
so
actually, you gave no, you gave the opposite of the answer a few minutes ago. But anyway,
well,
go
let's
on.
see if anyone caught it. But going back to the whole masculine and feminine and how people have grown up, I think it's all about what is right for you and your partner.
Yeah,
And that again is all that matters.
yeah.
And whether it's a marriage, whether it's a life partner, whether it's a business partner, what is the best flow or harmonizing way that you can function
Mhm.
together,
Yeah,
and no one else needs to have an opinion.
yeah. And it's about letting yourself flow where you're gonna flow. You know, it's not forcing yourself into a box because of certain parameters that someone's told you about.
Right, right.
It's that simple. For
So
you know, go ahead.
I'm thinking about on social media, how I got to this. It was somebody was complaining about a golf course that was upset. The man was upset because he went there with his son after he worked out and he was like in his gym clothes, and they allowed him to play golf, and yet they came back another day in a t-shirt, and they weren't allowed because they were supposed to wear collared shirts. And so then the conversation moved to, well, what is the dress code for the golf course? And
Mhm.
it's always been a collared shirt. But what I thought was so interesting is somebody actually wrote in the comments, and the women should always be in the skirt. And I was like, wait, do they still do that? Like, are they're still forcing women that play golf to wear skirts? Like, what if they want to wear shorts or pants? Are they told they can't?
Here's the thing. When was the last time those rules were rewritten?
God only
Exactly.
knows.
Because nobody, I guarantee, nobody has challenged them. No one has simply asked, "Hey, can we take a look at these?"
And here's the other part. If the women golfers don't mind, who are we to
That's true.
freaking judge anyway?
That too.
Wear your skirts and be free. I mean, good for you.
Hmm. This can very easily turn into also a conversation of just because you enjoy the way that you're living doesn't mean that everyone else is going to enjoy it that way. It's the concept of kind of like America of you're not free in the same way that we're free, so we're going to push our freedom on you so that you're free in the same way that we're free, even if the other country doesn't want to be free in the same way that we're free.
Maybe they're very happy.
And that's perfectly okay, but it's very much the same thing of like, okay, that's great that you want to be a multi-million dollar making executive woman. Maybe she just wants to have a beautiful family, and that's equally as
Mhm.
fulfilling for her.
Yeah.
Or conversely, the woman who is a stay-at-home mom looking down on the woman who wants to be an executive. Those two things can be equal to those two women.
Absolutely.
And that's the forcing of our thoughts and perspectives on others as the only right way
Mhm.
is probably pretty deep into this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to judgment.
Yeah.
Because who are we to say what's best for somebody else, whether we're masculine, feminine, whether we're in a relationship, not in a relationship? I know that I know what's right for me,
Hmm.
whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, whatever.
Hmm.
Yes, sometimes, a lot of times I ask for help. That's what we do. Good coaches have good coaches. Good, mentally healthy people ask for help. They don't try to just go it alone.
Hmm.
And I don't remember where I was going with that, but
That's okay. That's okay. Um, I have another quick story that I read in a book that relates right to this. It's not about men versus women, but the concept is essentially the same. And like I was just talking about with trying to force our way of living onto somebody else. There's a great book that's about finances and just having better money mindset. And the gentleman who wrote it started out with, a lot of Americans, we look at what are called sweatshops around the world, and we look at them as, oh my God, they need to be shut down, they need to be closed, these people are working for pennies, that just is not right. To those people, that's a dream job. To those people, that's feeding their families and giving them something to do every day. We might not like it. And yes, for some people it's not. And the ones that are like horrific conditions and they're slaves, of course
Right.
not. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I'll find the book if anyone wants to read it and see that I'm not making this up. But to those people, that's their life. That is a step up for them because it's giving them the money to live in a better place and have better circumstances.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the same as us, but that's not how our culture operates. So
Yeah.
for us to just go, well, we need to shut those down. Okay, well, are you putting something in its place? Because a woman working in a seamstress factory is a lot better than her being a prostitute. And if she doesn't have the seamstress factory, she's going to have to resort to this.
Yeah.
So that's a big step up for her and a major jump in living conditions. But
Right.
just because it's not what you see as
Right.
ideal doesn't mean that you can just write it off and decide that it's not good. And that was like a huge, like when I read that, it was such a mind opening story.
Yeah.
We don't think about that.
Right.
We get too wrapped up in our own internal world and our own internal story.
Yeah. Well, and think about the families that have farms, right? I think of the Greek village where the olive farm is that I hope to see at one point in my life. But back in the day, you had your kids out there working the farm with you.
Yeah.
Because it was the family, it was what was going to be passed down from generation to generation.
Right.
It wasn't, oh my gosh, child labor laws. Oh my goodness. You're teaching your family, you're teaching your children how to do what you do that is providing for them.
Right.
Now, if they choose to go off and go to college or great, good for them. But they learned the hard work, the sweat and the hard work that had to be put into who their family is today.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, oh boy, this can go on and on and on and on and on.
Because it's one of those things, it's one of those topics where it's just so deeply embedded into so many different avenues of the human experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come up again in other topics that we have coming up.
Oh,
and we have a lot of really good ones, and I'm going to be very interested to see if people pick up on the trend that we're starting with our shows. But that's all I'm going to say.
Yes, Raymond, and you missed. I think you missed part of the conversation when I talked about I read a magazine and it made me get really upset about something that I had no reason to be upset with because it really wasn't a thing back in the day when I was a stay-at-home mom, but because Glamour or Good Housekeeping told me I should be upset about it, I was upset about it.
You could visibly see and feel her energetic change just relaying the story.
Well, and now I'll put articles out there that are the opposite.
Right.
I will always be the woman that and your father will always be the one that will open up a door for me. And it's not that I expect it. And I remember when we first started dating, I would just go to open the door because remember, I was raised by a mom that was like, independence, open the damn door. And so I had to learn to like wait by the car door and allow my lovely husband, not yet husband.
And it's okay to let a man open the door for you. Chivalry is not dead. Stop trying to kill it and then beat it with a stick once it's already dead. Leave it alone. Because some women like the door being open for them.
Yes,
and that's okay.
And if the woman gets mad at you, like, whoa, you think I can't open the door? Well, then there's some trauma that needs to be looked at. It is true that Michelle doesn't have a poker face. Yes, I do not. When I play poker, probably not. I have a tell. I'm sure I have to work really hard at not showing my poker face, or showing my poker face. But yeah, I like to be asked to dance by your father, like at a wedding or something. I like to wear a dress. I remember in corporate, when I would go to work and I got to the point where I had to match. I was having so much fun being like my own version of my own Barbie doll. My shoes had to match my dress, and when I had to wear a mask during flu season, my mask had rhinestones and it matched my suit. Like, that was who I was. I wasn't the woman that was like, oh no, I'm going to wear a pantsuit. Now, granted, I did like wearing a pantsuit versus skirt. But I always had to make sure that there was a little frilly something to it, because that's me.
Right. And that's perfectly okay. And mind you, that was in a healthcare executive role. So you were bringing feminine to a masculine role.
Right.
And to circle back to Raymond's comment, I also want to say this for any men that might be listening. If anyone ever gives you a hard time about opening the door for them, just let it go and move on and keep opening the dang doors.
Yeah.
Let them take their trauma and their baggage with them. Do not let it change who you are. Right. And to Raymond's point, the respect that you want to show to somebody else.
Yeah. Because
don't get bitter about it.
Yeah. And same thing, like giving your seat to a woman who's pregnant or older, or even just a woman. Like, it's okay. And the women out there, please, for the love of all things holy, if it bothers you, just ask yourself why.
Well,
just be curious.
You can also respectively just say, oh no, thank you, I'm all right, I've been sitting all day. You don't have to be rude about it either.
Right. But also, to understand yourself better, just be curious and ask yourself, why does it bother you?
Yeah.
No one's saying you can't do it. No one's saying that you're not equal. It is just a gentlemanly thing to do. Mm-hmm. That's all. Just like it's a very feminine thing to do when someone walks in your house to say, hey, can I get you a drink of water or a soda or something? Or to, hey, are you hungry?
Is it a womanly thing or a Sheldon Cooper thing?
I don't know.
And on that note, folks, no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, and but you bring up someone who's, that's a very interesting thing, because look at him. When you really think about it and look at him, he's very happy with his feminine and his masculine, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very analytical, but he also, when you look at it, he just flows with his flow.
Well, and that's the other thing. He flows with his flow. So yeah, yeah. Start hurting after a while if I said yes. Don't we all? Sit too long. I'm going to go outside and hug a tree when we're done. Because that's my feminine coming out. Oh, no one guessed on who's the baker and who's the cook. Should we give it up?
That's such a hard way to say it, because I'm both.
All right, fine. Who's the feminine and who's the masculine in our partnership?
Even that's a weird way of saying it. You lean more feminine, I lean more masculine, but look at our roles. I'm a fractional COO, I'm in operations. That's very masculine of that. My brain has to work that way. You're a coach, which very much is led by intuition and nurturing another person, which is very feminine.
And yet you can still nurture and be an advocate and do all of that too. But
and that's the key.
Right. And if I have to be analytical or mathematical and all that good stuff, I can, but I really enjoy flowing better.
and you know what's funny though is I'm going to change I definitely am have more divine masculine than you, but I do think that I am very much more feminine than my job would suggest, because I do integrate a lot of intuition into what I
Yes.
do.
Hmm.
And that is a very feminine thing.
I
Divine
al-
feminine
I
thing.
also think it's because of all of the work that you've done to embrace both parts and to harmonize them.
Yes. Yeah. And there's something to be said about learning how to balance them and tap into them both so they both can be at their absolute maximum efficiency. I don't.
Because again, internally, we're both masculine and feminine. And when they're
Right.
working together, and when we can call on one, when
Hmm.
we need that one more important, then we, hey, Renee, then we can grab that piece. We can activate the feminine aspect of us. And then when we need the more masculine, we can activate the more masculine. But
Right.
it makes us whole. So why would that not be the same for physical relationships between human beings?
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
part it's a partnership, people. It's a partnership. We all need each other.
True. And on that note, we should definitely we'll add a topic about the divine masculine and divine feminine conversation, because I think that's a really good one, because I think there's a lot of
Mhm.
misconceptions that somebody could have about what that means.
Mhm.
Because like we've said, you could be, a husband who's slightly more divinely feminine, and your wife most likely is slightly more divinely masculine in the balance, and that's why it
Mhm.
works so well.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what those two parts look like and
Oh
truly
yeah.
are. So I think that would be a really good conversation to have in the future.
I agree with you. And I think that there's a lot of men that are hurting or have been traumatized
Yeah.
because they're they lean more feminine and their wives or their partners are more masculine, and they catch shit for it.
Or,
And it's no one else's business.
well, yes. And on the flip side, this also can play a lot into if you are looking for a partner. If you are more divinely
Yeah,
feminine, you need a partner who is more divinely masculine. So,
right.
very much the same way with men, since you were referring to men, there are plenty of men who are slightly more feminine who have trauma regarding their partners looking down on them because they're not strong enough. But it's just because they're incompatible. They're both leaning on the feminine side
Right.
versus finding counterparts that balance each other.
Right. And if you
And that
look
goes vice versa.
right, and if it's looked at that way, it makes so much more sense.
Right, right. And when you can look at something, you of course we shouldn't look at everything technical and, analytical, but when you can and you can separate yourself emotionally from the situation and look at it from an analytical, a scientific, a technical point of view,
Hmm.
it can relieve a lot of emotional stress about the topic
Yeah.
for you. And we'll talk about that more in future episodes, but we're just short of hitting an hour.
Oh.
So we're going to let you guys get back to work, life, whatever you're doing.
Yes,
Um,
and thank you all for joining
yes,
on your lunch hour and just stopping in to say hi. Yes, a balance in all things.
that's exactly right.
I love it. I love it. Thank you all
Well,
for being
Michelle,
here.
where can they find you?
Mokshagrace.com, and in social media you can find me yeah, that there, Moksha Grace, all over social media. And
And what
it's
exactly do you do? Because we didn't say it in the beginning.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So I am a emotional liberation coach. So I will help you figure out where you are as far as your masculine and your feminine, and how to bring yourself more into harmony with your emotions and your traumas, and do that work so that you can be more aligned with who you really are. And how about you, Krista? Where can people find you?
I just want to say you really do amazing work with people. And as your COO, I've been privileged enough to see a lot of these success stories and the clients that you work with over the years. And it really is amazing what happens and the changes that happen in your life and so quickly when you're willing to put in the effort
Yeah.
to feel better. not do better, not, what, to literally feel better. Feeling better impacts every other area of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it can happen so quickly.
Yeah. Well, it's like I tell clients a lot, give people the best of you, not what's left of you.
Right.
They deserve better.
Right.
And you deserve better.
Yeah.
But thank you for pointing that out, because
Of course.
it's fun.
And I am a fractional COO, an operations consultant. I help business owners get back to doing the stuff that they actually like doing in their business, and I take care of the rest. And you can find me at wickedwisdomconsulting.com. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. Please connect with me anywhere you'd like, and make sure to follow our respective channels so that you can get updated when the show is live. And yeah, and follow Michelle, because she puts out a lot of really great content. It's really motivational, and that's part of the key, is to stay inspired, stay motivated, because that'll help you along your journey and really stay grounded.
Yeah. And follow Krista, because she has some really, really great ideas, and she puts a lot of them out there. So, all right. Well, we're going to go now, but hey, Moment of Presence is tomorrow. And
Same time, 12 p.m.
Yeah, same time, 12 p.m. And I'll see y'all over there.
Bye.
Bye.